This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter.
At Pepe Sayer, we focus on quality. So if someone comes into your restaurant and they see you're using Pepe Sayer, they know immediately that that is a quality product you've got in front of you on the table. And that comes from a decade of just doing quality butter day after day.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
We're lucky to be in a work environment where it's not about the politics, it's not about, who's doing what. It's that team bond and the love of what you're doing that keeps things strong and moving forward.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Running a restaurant not only requires the managing of all the varying perceptions of each diner, but also managing the team and consistently delivering on your promise. We've talked about the relationship between the back of house and front of house in delivering and offering. But how do you get the balance right? How do you get the communication levels right to ensure customer satisfaction? Adele Pollard is the co-owner of the Topiary in South Australia. Adele, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to get you on the show. You're pretty busy with your husband, Kane, as well, with an incredible business, the Topiary, which has won many accolades. What's it been like at the moment? We're in spring. How are things?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show. It's definitely something we have loved watching and listening to and being a part of. So thank you for the inclusion. Topiary has been booming. This has been the best winter. We've just come out of the best winter that we've had for the last 10 years. And hopefully this spring, with this gorgeous weather we're having, we'll just continue to do the same. It's very exciting times ahead.
You've sort of look after the front of house and all the background of the Topiary, and we often see Kane in the media. What's it like trying to strike that balance of running a family business and getting everything right? It's been a process, a journey of learning, and we feel like we're finally starting to hit our straps, and finding some balance has been amazing in achieving that as well. So I think, it's been incredible that we've been able to work together to run the restaurant, and always sort of having each other's backs and being able to talk and bounce ideas off of each other just helps with finding that balance. It's always been something that we've tried to work towards, but I think in the beginning you're just so involved in the business that, taking a step outside to sort of look in, you always struggle to find the time to do that. But lately we've been able to do that, and things have been growing steadily ever since. Well, I want to explore that, and also the transformation that the Topiary has had over the last decade or so. But take us back to when you were young. What sort of role did food play in your family?
Oh, food was huge. We were a massive food family. I guess any adventure, whether it was like fishing or, just gathering, it was always, food was at the heart of everything we did. My dad's Italian, so I've got a bit of Italian background, and then mum's English, but, they love their food just as much. So anything we did was always, there was always a food element to it. They weren't from a hospitality background, but always just, were super hospitable. And, I remembered as a child setting the table for mum and dad because they'd have their dinner parties at their house, and I'd set the table for them and their friends. And, so it's always been a huge part of what we've done. I've got my nonna, every time we go over and visit, it's always about the food. So it's always been huge part of what we've done. And then, bringing it together in a professional sense is just, giving it that extra element of fun and enjoyment. Yeah, loved it.
Are there any sort of dishes or feasts or celebrations that you remember from when you were young that you can tell us about?
Oh, I guess Christmas is always the fun one. There's always, multiple courses. So you sort of end up wearing your like loose pants to Christmas lunch because, you're like got 7 courses of, huge amounts of food to come. And it's always sort of a like long drawn out lunch across the day, which is, incredible and just gives you time to share stories with the family that, you may not have caught up with for a while. And Christmas is probably like the time, the food, the biggest food time of the year for us. And we often, recently we've been, we compare wines and everyone sort of comes up with a course and, whether it be something that's, something serious or a funny food memory and, pairing it with an incredible local wine. It always just sort of brings that extra element of community and, belonging, I guess, to the meal. And, so Christmas time is always like a bit of a special food memory, and like every year it just, you've got that sentiment and big part of what we do.
You mentioned it's been interesting transferring that sort of love of food within your family into a professional sense. Was a career in hospitality something you always thought about, or when was that sort of moment when you wanted to move into hospitality?
Yeah, no, it was never something that I had envisaged for myself. I think growing up, was sort of always, people would sort of say, be a teacher, you get the holidays, and as a mum, you get to spend time with the family. So, and my dad was a teacher, so I sort of, followed in the footsteps. And that's where originally, my sort of headspace was at and my direction. So I did that, and I did it for like a very short time, and I had met Kane by then. And, he was sort of like looking to move out of working nights because I was going to be a teacher and we wanted to spend time together. But it turns out like we got married and ended up going on our honeymoon, and we went around and we just ate our way around Tasmania, and that we just followed the amazing food and restaurants that are there, and I just fell in love with hospitality and that vibe that you get when you're in a restaurant. And I think that was like a big turning point for me. Realizing that there was this whole other world out there, something that I had never envisaged, and something that I enjoyed being involved in. And I think the actual turning point was being at Stillwater restaurant in Tasmania and watching Bianca on the floor. And I watched her move around the restaurant with like such grace and professionalism. And I said to Kane, I was like, that watching her just makes me want to be involved in restaurants. We got back to Adelaide and spent a day sort of with our friends out at a food festival. And that was the day we were talking about food and hospitality. And that was the day I remember it. And I thought, no, that's it. I'm changing my career. I want to go into our own business. So here we are 10 years later. Complete change of direction, and definitely not where I thought I would be. That's been incredible.
As you made that transition into the industry, were you surprised about the realities of it once you sort of stepped in?
I think I fell in love with the buzz and
the sense of community and like that team vibe that you get when you're working in a really tight-knit team. I think I haven't worked anywhere else in hospitality other than the Topiary. So I haven't had that reality check, I don't think. Because it feels like a whole nother world being at Topiary. I think it's like predominantly days, and it's, we're out of the city. You're sort of nestled into this little valley and in the middle of nature. So it's really different to, I guess, just working in a normal bar or restaurant in the city. So I don't know that I've had that reality check yet. It may be to come. Who knows?
Well, tell us about the beginnings and that of the Topiary for you and how it all started.
So it was in the works. Kane had been working at Topiary for a couple of years already by this point, and he'd been talking with my dad about setting up their own little place and, sort of doing their own thing. And then they realised that maybe purchasing the Topiary might be an option. So they went ahead with that. And then, after spending some time in Tasmania, sort of reflecting on life and what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be, and seeing how, well Kane and I bounce off of each other, I think that's when we were really that's when the decision was made to work together in a business. And that's where it sort of all the storming happened. And we ended up working front of house. They needed a restaurant manager. It was something I'd never done before and was terrified of, absolutely terrified of. But I knew he needed me, and there was no way I was going to let him down. So I walked through those doors and I just thought, I can do this. Ended up absolutely falling in love with the role, with the people. I think that's always been at the forefront of anything I've done, is just that need to connect with people. And I think that's why I love what I do, and it's really hard to step away from.
Most people in any field work on the job and on the go and pick things up. What were some of the real turning points for you in that role that sort of gave you the confidence to deliver what was required at the Topiary?
Oh, wow. It took a few years to really feel like I was embracing and doing well in the role. I think I'm always so hard on myself and always just want to make sure everything's perfect. And I know that's not reality, but it took a few years to settle in. And I think one turning point was we have this amazing team member, Sue, who has worked with us for years and years and has worked at Topiary for almost 20 years now. And she said to me, we're having a really, really great day. And we had one particular person that just, from the moment they walked in the door, you couldn't do anything that was going to please them, I was really downtrodden by this person, and Sue turned around and said, our job is always to just, turn around someone's day. You've got no idea what's been going on for them. And if while they're here at Topiary or while they're here in our space and in our care, if you can do everything in your power to try and turn things around for them, you've done your job. And I think that was a huge turning point in giving me the confidence to move forward and to, really take care of our guests in a way that, you don't get in any old little place. So that was a big one for me, because I feel like I was doing that anyway and in my own way, and just realizing that, we can make a difference in people's lives, even if it's just,
putting a coffee down in front of them, or, that was empowering, I guess. So yeah, from then on, it just, grew and became a whole nother, I guess, career for me. Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the restaurant when you guys first took it over and started to make it your own compared to sort of where it is now. How much has it changed?
It's changed a great deal. Yeah, it started off as more of a cafe, and it was serving breakfast and doing really nice little lunches, but it's really evolved. And I think we were so young when we took it over. We were just young, and we were just ready to take on the world. So there's probably things that we would change if we had to go back and do it all again, but at the same time, it's all part of our story. So it was, we were serving, Kane was serving vol au vents and teas, and it was very tea focused and high tea, and it had that English vibe to it. So it was little tea house style place. And then that sort of started to evolve when Kane got it in the mix. He'd come from a really amazing breakfast focused restaurant in the city and sort of brought that vibe up to Topiary. So the breakfast started to evolve, and and then that just brought a whole new crowd through, which was really exciting. So then they started getting excited about the change as well. I think everyone's a lot of our customers have sort of gone on that journey with us. They've seen us and watched us evolve over the 10 years to become, highly localized. We support all the people around us, and I think that's where those changes have come in from. We were buying products in and sort of putting them on the plate with the high teas and, in terms of the jam and things like that. Whereas, that all changed, and to the point where we made everything on site. So doing that sort of gave us the power of understanding what we're putting down on the table in front of our guests. And so then that helps with the conversation. So then your service begins to change as well, and that care and love for what you're doing can sort of be seen from the kitchen right through to, on the floor with our beautiful team members, and then filter through to the customers. So it's very evolved now. We ended up, we're doing dinners Friday nights, and we've had many little small weddings and events come through Topiary. So it's definitely changed from that little tea house serving cake and coffee to, somewhere you can go for a beautiful meal at night. So, it's been exciting to watch.
There's a real catch cry and a lot of talk about cooking local and connecting with local growers across the whole industry. But the Topiary is a real example of doing that with the local community. Tell us a bit about the local area and the producers that you work with and how it all works at the Topiary.
Oh, absolutely. So we connect with our local farmers, mostly from the markets. We go to the markets every Sunday morning. We connect, so that, and I guess that that connection sort of dictates what goes on the plate at the end of the day, because that changes from week to week as well. So we've got all the beautiful producers of vegetables and fruit at the markets. We use milk from up the road in Lobethal. We've got our amazing friend Marlene, who lives just up the road, and she grows a lot of what we use for garnishes and our beautiful edible flowers and things like that. And I guess we've
always been working towards that local and sustainable sort of headset and frame of mind. And with that, connecting with those people around just helps that build that support network within your area. So it ends up, they talk to other people, and then you end up with these amazing, beautiful connections that happen organically just through meeting people. And that has just been absolutely invaluable, working with Gulwa Pipiko. That's something that we have done for years, go onto the beaches and harvest cockles for ourselves, just, go down there and cook up a meal on the beach. But to do that and bring that to the topiary through an amazing company like Gulwa Pipiko is just, so valuable. And just supporting our beautiful local producers just helps, that localization movement that's happening, trying to combat all the globalization that's happened over the years. So, hopefully that helps to build the community, brings stronger, bonds, and
You mentioned Bianca Welsh, one of Australia's best front of house professionals, as inspiration to sort of make that step into the industry. How do you get the best out of your staff? What's your approach now you're running your own establishment?
Oh, I guess leading by example is, probably the obvious one. But, Kane and I have worked in the business the whole 10 years, which has, I think, helped build that bond with our team and strengthen the team. But I guess at the end of the day, we can't be there forever. So we've had to flip the headset and try and empower our team to take on these roles and take them on in a way that suits the way they learn, their style of service, and really give them the reins, sort of give them the tools with structure, and teach them sort of how we, would like things to be done, and I guess really look at our values, and when they understand what our values are, the rest seems to come fairly easily, and they end up producing service in a way that it is really reflective of what we regard and value highly. So I think that has been a process of like letting go of every little thing, every little detail, but also empowering our team to pick up on those details and then, deliver in their own way.
What's the dynamic like with you and Kane? I've spoken to Martin Ben and Vicky Wild, and I know that she's his number one taste tester, and not much ever gets on a menu in their restaurants unless Vicky gives it a tick. What's the relationship like with you and Kane in regards to the overall package and offering with the restaurant?
Yeah, I can totally relate. In the depths of it, when we were working, 6 days a week together, that it was, he'd make something, and if it didn't make it past me, it didn't make it onto the menu. he would always look at my reaction and sort of know whether it was hitting the mark or not. And so it's very, very similar. I think lately there's definitely been Kane's sort of been doing his own thing. He's had that bit more autonomy, and because I've sort of been out of the restaurant for the last year and a half. But I think moving forward, we'll get back to our roots and back to that sort of, that really strong bond of, they make it and then we test it out the front. And because I guess our connection, my connection to the front of house helps them connect with what's going to work in the kitchen too. Understanding what the customers are gonna want is really important too. I think we're not a walk by destination. You have to jump in your car and come to Topiary. So once we get those customers in, we need to make sure that they're having the best experience possible. So yeah, he definitely runs things past me and does the old taste test. And the poor thing, he's had to endure some of my critical feedback over the years. But, it toughens him, I think.
You mentioned something really interesting at the top of the show about where the Topiary is at the moment, and you've sort of been working in the background to develop the business rather than sort of in the business. What's the result of that been, and what's the next sort of 6 months to a year looking like as a result?
Oh, good question. Yeah. So I think for years, like I said, we'd sort of been working in the business, and, our accountant would always say to us, work in the business, work on the business, not in the business. And we'd sit there and shrug our shoulders and say, how do we do that? We're a small family business. We need to get in there and make sure things are happening. And I think it wasn't until we were forced to step back and not be so involved that we have been able to breathe and work on the business. And we're like, it was sort of like a click moment for us. We're like, oh, this is what she'd been saying this whole time. Because we were starting to see results of us not being there as much, so, and actually working on the business. So we've been able to do a rebrand, which hopefully will be completely finished soon. And we'll be able to do our 10-year celebrations with a new rebrand stuff that we've got coming through. And moving forward the next 6 to 12 months, we're like looking at different avenues of opening up a new place as well in a different location, sort of learning from things that have happened in the past, and being able to almost start fresh in a new space, but still have like Topiary's still kicking goals, so it's not going anywhere either. But the possibility of another venue opening is like really exciting at the moment too. So we're not sure on time frame yet for that one, but it's definitely something in the works. There's been, some consultation stuff happening, and looking at just really focusing on some really important things that I guess matter, like, the whole movement towards localization, and trying to sort of make that a really big thing here in South Australia is like it's really exciting, and feels like it's getting traction. So, yeah.
We've done incredible things over the last decade with your husband, Kane, with the Topiary. What is it that you love about what you do?
Oh, I mean, I love being able to make somebody's day. I think seeing people's reactions to having an experience that they often don't expect at Topiary, I think that is what we get the biggest kick out of, and it keeps us going. And I think a lot of people come up not knowing what to expect, especially walking into a food venue that's in a nursery. I think in Australia there's certain connotations as to what that is, but we're sort of breaking those barriers down in having something that, to us makes a lot of sense, something, a restaurant with a menu that changes constantly and evolves with the seasons, with the years and times. I think that progression and moving forward, that's what keeps me here, and that's what keeps me going and excited in my role. I think, we're lucky to be in a work environment where it's not about the politics, it's not about, you know, who's doing what. It's that team bond and the love of what you're doing that keeps things strong and moving forward. And I think that's what keeps me coming back every time I sort of think, oh, maybe I might move in a different direction. Something comes up and stops me from doing it. And I think, no, this is where I'm meant to be.
Well, Adele, it's been absolutely extraordinary having you on Deep in the Weeds today, and very much look forward to seeing what does come from all of these plans in the next sort of couple of years. Please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me on your show. What an honour.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.